Hello to all of you wonderfully killy people. Welcome to Let's Get Critical. My name is Gar. Here is the roster for Kill Team Deathwatch. The kill team selection for this team is really simple. Now you just select any 5 operatives from the following list. You can see here we have a Watch Sergeant, an Aegis, Blademaster, Bombard, Breacher, Demolisher, Disruptor, Gunner, Headtaker, Horde-Slayer and Marksman veteran. We'll go through those later. Now your team can include each operative on the list once, and you can only include up to 1 operative wearing Gravis armor. That's the Breacher, the Horde-Slayer and the Bombard. It's a really super simple and flexible list building option, and all of the options on this list have some fantastic weapons and they have fantastic unique rules, and like I say, we'll go through those later in the video. For those of you that use the approved ops mission pack, then your TAC op can be selected from Seek and Destroy or Security archetypes, and if you're playing using the preliminary ops in the core book or the kill team light rules, then you don't have to worry about those at all. Next, we're going to dive straight in and look at the faction rule for the Kill Team Deathwatch. Next, we're going to look at the faction rules for the Deathwatch kill team. There are 2 faction rules that you can use in the kill zone, and they're Veteran Astartes and Special Issue Ammunition. Faction rule, Veteran Astartes. During each friendly operative's activation, it can perform either 2 shoot or 2 fight actions. If it's 2 shoot actions and an auxiliary grenade launcher, frag cannon, heavy plasma incinerator, Infernus heavy bolter, plasma pistol or stalker bolt rifle is selected for both. 1 additional AP must be spent for the second action. And each friendly Deathwatch operative can counteract regardless of its order. Whenever it does, it can perform an additional 1 AP action for free during that counteraction, but both actions must be different. So, it's very much like the standard Astartes rule, in that you can obviously perform 2 shoots, 2 fights, and certain weapons you've got to spend a second action point if you want to use them twice during the activation. You get that with the Angels of Death, the Plague Marines, the Phobos Strike Team, several others. The bit that's different, the bit that makes it big, is this second piece. This every Deathwatch operative can counteract regardless of his order. That's standard for Astartes, but when it does, it can perform an additional 1 AP action for free during the counteraction. That's really strong. So, you know, you can now essentially have 5 AP for your operatives, which is really, they need it, trust me, they need it. So you can 1, 2, 3, dash, move, shoot, leave it there, and then when it counteracts, you can move again, shoot, or you can throw a smoke and you can shoot, or you can take an objective and you can shoot, or you can charge up to 2 inches and you can fight. It's really, really strong. Or you can fight, kill somebody, and then move 2 inches, or then shoot. You know, yeah. The absolute stackability of things you can do is brilliant. I think the normal Astartes rule only gets a 4 out of 5 for me. The Veteran Astartes rule is a solid 5 out of 5. It's absolutely brilliant faction rule. It's super strong, and without it, the Deathwatch, even with all their fancy guns and their fancy ploys and stuff, still wouldn't be. It's this additional AP action for free that makes them what they are, makes them super, super good. Faction rule Veteran Astartes, 5 out of 5. Deathwatch faction rule, Special Issue Ammunition. Once per turning point, when a friendly Deathwatch operative is performing the shoot action, in the select weapon step, you can use this rule. If you do, select one of the following weapon rules for that operative's ranged weapons to have until the end of the action. This rule cannot be used with explosive grenades, see universal equipment, or melter bombs. You have Blast 1. You cannot select this if the weapon rule profile already has the torrent weapon rule, and then you have Devastating 1, Lethal 5 up, Piercing 1, Rending, Saturate and Severe. So this is another really strong faction rule. It's a once per turning point faction rule, so When you use it, it means you have to be incredibly selective when deciding to use it, but in all the games I've played, it's been a huge benefit to my kill team. You have a fantastic array of weapon rules to use, and some of my favourites are definitely first, probably Blast 1-inch. It's always great being able to add blast to a weapon. Even standard pistols become more effective and more efficient when you can spend an AP on them and you can hit more than one valid target. And plenty of the weapons have piercing one as well, so adding blast to that is just absolutely brilliant. Another great one to add is piercing one itself. It's always nice to put that onto a gun profile, but like I say, there's quite a lot of the Deathwatch firearms that already have it. And the next two useful for me personally are Relentless and Severe. How I work it out is simple. If it's 5 attacks hitting on 3s, I always add Relentless as the weapon rule. And if it's 4 attacks hitting on 3s, then hedge your bets a bit and go with Severe, because you want to let the maths work in your favour. You want to really, get with that, I think. 5 attacks hitting on 3s, go Relentless. 4 attacks hitting on 3s, use Severe. Just be a bit more cautious, because you can only use it once per turning point. Getting that extra, upgrade to a crit is, I think Severe is always better. So overall, the special issue ammunition for me is a very solid 4 out of 5. It's really useful, and more importantly, it's great fun to play. The fact you can only use it once per turning point, I'm just going to give it a 4 out of 5. Next, let's move on and let's look at the data cards for the Deathwatch operatives. The Deathwatch Watch Sergeant, he's 3 APL, he's a 6-inch move, he's 3 up save and 15 wounds. He has a ranged weapon called Plasma Pistol. It has 2 profiles. The standard profile is 4 attacks hitting on 3s with a 3/5 damage. It's range 8 and piercing 1. And the supercharged profile is 4 attacks hitting on 3s with a 4/5 damage. It's ranged 8, hot, lethal 5 up and piercing 1. And his melee weapon is called Power Weapon. It's 5 attacks hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage and lethal 5 ups. The Deathwatch Sergeant has 2 unique special rules to use in the game. The first is called Adaptable Armory, and you can select 1 additional equipment option. Now, this is a really straightforward rule, and it's also incredibly useful. I went up against Ryan twice playing the Deathwatch. On both times he took the Watch Sergeant, and he took smoke grenades and light barricades, and obviously 3 of the faction equipments. The smoke grenades on both games turned to be very useful. I've played with these Deathwatch kill team twice, and I used a heavy barricade once, and I also used some crack grenades. So having the extra equipment option, it's really, really simple, but it's also a very effective rule as well. The second unique additional rules for the Deathwatch Watch Sergeant is called Strategic Command, and you can do each of the following once per battle. If this operative is in the kill zone, you can use a Deathwatch Strategy Ploy for 0 CP, and you can use a Deathwatch Firefight Ploy for 0 CP. It's another simple but effective rule, and it's really great for saving those command points early in the game. And as long as you keep your Watch Sergeant safe, you're essentially starting the game with an extra 2 command points. You get your 3 command points for starting the game, and then obviously you get a free strategy ploy and a free firefight ploy. I think the Deathwatch Watch Sergeant is a solid operative, and I'd probably always take him. I'd personally take him because he's an excellent mix of firepower and melee, and his unique rules are very useful. Whether you're building a melee team, he's useful with his power weapon. Even if you're building a gunline team, he's still kind of useful with a power pistol, plasma pistol, and for a balanced team and competitive play, he's also useful as well. I like the Deathwatch Watch Sergeant. I think he's great. But let's look at the next operative in the Deathwatch kill team. Deathwatch Aegis Veteran, 3 APL, 6-inch move, 2 up save, 15 wounds. He has 2 weapons. The first weapon is a ranged weapon called Bolt Pistol. It's 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/4 damage with a range of 8 inches, and his melee weapon is called Power Maul and Storm Shield. It's 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage with shock and shield. So looking at his core stat line, you know, the 3 APL 6-inch move is the same as the Watch Sergeant, so are the 15 wounds, but he has a 2-up save. He makes him a lot tankier. His bolt pistol is just a standard bolt pistol, and his Power Maul and Storm Shield is a very strong weapon already, 5 attacks, 3s, 4/6 and shock, and the shield weapon rule makes it even stronger. We'll have a look at that rule now. Shield. Whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating with this weapon, each of your blocks can be allocated to block 2 unresolved successes instead of 1. Now, this is a really strong weapon rule, and I've used it a few times, and I've had it used against me a few times as well. It's absolutely great to be able to block 2 of your enemy's attacks with just 1 of yours, and it's absolutely brilliant when you see the look on their face when they've got to obviously remove 2 of their attack dice. Here's a beat stick. He's got a very strong weapon. This doesn't really make it stronger, you know, in attack, but it just obviously makes it harder for your opponent to hit you back. And he's also got the 2-up save as well, so he really is a beat stick. The weapon's quite strong already, you know, the 5 attacks, 3s, 4, 5 damage and shot, but adding this shield, adding this ability to block 2 of your opponent's, you know, attacks. If it's crits as well, if you get 1 crit and your opponent scores 2 crits, you can use that 1 crit to block 2 of your opponent's crit. So it really, really is very strong. If you score 1 crit and your opponent has 1 crit and a normal, you can still block 1 crit and a normal attack as well. So it's really, really strong. Yeah, very strong. He has another rule as well. It's called Storm Shield. Now, whenever an operative is shooting this operative, you worsen the X of the piercing weapon rule by 1. If any, note that piercing 1 would therefore be ignored. So, putting it all together, you know, he already has a 2-up save, and he also has this Storm Shield special rule, which means if you're shooting at him, you can obviously mitigate piercing 1 completely, and you can reduce piercing 2 down to piercing 1, and you know, that just makes him harder to kill as well. This is really good if your opponent has lots of weapons that has the piercing 1 weapon rule. I had a game where I was playing the Canoptek Circle going up against Ryan. Ryan had the Aegis operative, and like I say, the 2 of them had the piercing crits on the Gauss weapons, and there was also the piercing 2 on the Geomancer, you know, so it come in very, very useful there because lots of them. But if you come up against a kill team that doesn't have any weapons in its arsenal with the piercing weapon rule, you know, it's not so useful. So it is a little bit circumstantial. But like I say, pairing it with the 2-up save means it's a lot harder to kill and remove the Aegis veteran from the battlefield, from the kill zone. Personally, I like the Aegis veteran a lot. He's definitely one of, if not the really tankiest operative in the kill team. And if I was taking a balanced and competitive team, you know, for competitive play, or just a strong melee team, then I'd probably always be taking this guy, the Aegis veteran. I probably wouldn't take him in a gun line, but you know, for a balanced competitive kill team, you'd probably always be taking him. Because he's really good to take off an objective. He's incredibly tanky. He's 2-up save. He's got the shield. He's really, really hard to remove, but he's not that good at clearing enemies off objectives. There are better operatives at fighting that can clear the objectives, and there are better operatives at shooting that can clear the objectives as well. I would personally give the Aegis operative a score of 4 out of 5. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Blademaster Veteran. 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3-up save and 15 wounds. He has 2 weapons. He has a ranged weapon called Special Issue Bolt Pistol. It's 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/4 damage, range 8 and piercing 1. And he has a weapon system, a melee weapon called Xenophase Blade, and it has 2 profiles. The dual profile is 5 attacks hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage, brutal, lethal 5-up. And the Xenophase Blade phase sweep profile has 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage. It's brutal 5-ups with the special rule phase sweep. So he's another, you know, balanced operative. He's definitely kitted out more for combat. He's obviously 3 APL, so he's got back up to a 3/8 save, not the Aegis. His special issue bolt pistol is essentially just a bolt pistol with piercing 1, but his Xenophase blade is what really makes him special. He has 2 special unique rules, and we'll quickly go through those now. The first rule for the Blademaster veteran is called Adaptive Swordsmanship. Now, you can ignore any changes to the hit stat of the operative's Xenophase blade. Whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating, you can resolve one of your successes before the normal order, and if you do, that success must be used to block. This weapon rule, I think, is useful. It means that being injured won't affect the ability to use this weapon, and you don't have to apply the -1 to your hit stat. If you were injured, you'd have to obviously take 2 inches off your move. You'd only move 4 inches instead of 6, but when you fight, or if you were charging, you'd have to have 4 + 2 instead of 6 + 2. But when you fight, you don't have to apply the -1 hit stat to the Xenophase blade. And you've also got the choice to block with one of your attacks first, even if your opponent was meant to go first because he charged you. Then obviously if you're charging him, it's irrelevant because you go first anyway. But if he's charging you and you're retaliating, then at least you've got that option to block one first. And now these 2 abilities, they do play nicely with each other. It also always almost ensures that the Blademaster is hitting as hard as he can, even if he's injured. And it's a strong weapon rule to have on an aggressive attacking operative. It is is really good. And the other rule is on the Xenophase blade. It's on the phase sweep profile, and obviously the special rule is called phase sweep. Now, whenever this operative performs the fight action with this weapon rule, if it isn't incapacitated, then it can immediately perform a free fight action afterwards, but you must select this weapon profile, and it can only fight against each other operative within its control range once per activation or counter action using this weapon profile. This takes precedence over action restrictions, and you can continue to perform free fight actions until this operative is incapacitated or has fought against every enemy operative within its control range. Wow, I know it's a long rule, but you know, it's not that difficult. Essentially, if you charge into a group of enemy operatives with the Blademaster veteran, you can fight all of the operatives, essentially. You know, it's like you can fight the first opponent, and after you've fought him, it doesn't matter whether that guy's dead or whether he's on wounds. It doesn't matter if you killed him or not. As long as you've got health left, you can then fight again, and you can choose another enemy operative that's within your control range. And then after you've fought that enemy operative, again, it doesn't matter whether the enemy's dead or whether he's got wounds remaining. As long as you have got wounds remaining, you can fight the next enemy operative, and you just keep continuing to fight other enemy operatives, and you keep fighting until either you've fought all the enemy operatives within your control range, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter, or until you're dead. So, you know, it's a hyper-aggressive attack profile. It can deal a hell of a lot of damage to a small group of enemy operatives, which you're saying on an objective, trying to keep your team from scoring on it. And you also have the brutal weapon rule, so your opponent can't block with their normal successes. And you also have the lethal 5-weapon rule to help you get extra crits. So all in all, you know, it's a hyper-aggressive attack profile. The Blademaster, in my opinion, is the best melee option for going up against like horde teams, and they're forced to clump their operatives together to protect and to secure objectives. He's really, really strong going up against normal elite operatives as well, but he shows to be extra strong, you know, when you get clumps of models which aren't that good and haven't got the best saves, and they've only got like 7 wounds or, you know, 9 wounds, and they're obviously not elite because horde models generally have like 7, 8 or 9 wounds. Now, I am going to personally score the Blademaster a 4 out of 5. He's very useful attacking operative, and he has a very useful set of rules, and his phase sweep is massive fun to play. I really enjoyed using him on a couple of occasions, and it was great fun when Ryan used him against me as well. He's good fun. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Demolisher veteran. He has 3 APL, 6-inch move, a 3-up save with 15 wounds. He has 2 weapons. He has a ranged weapon called Bolt Pistol, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with 3-4 damage and ranged 8 inches. And he has a melee weapon called Heavy Thunder Hammer. It's 5 attacks, hitting on 4s with 6-7 damage, shock and stun. The Demolition Veteran's got the standard elite profile, you know, 3-6, 3-up save, 15 wounds. His Bolt Pistol is standard. His Heavy Thunder Hammer is already a big hitting weapon. As with all the operatives in the Deathwatch kill team, they've got special additional rules. So let's quickly go through those now. The first is called Brutal Assault. Whenever this operative is fighting, its Heavy Thunder Hammer has the brutal weapon rule, and whenever this operative performs the charge action, its Heavy Thunder Hammer has the ceaseless weapon rule until the end of the activation or counteraction. So the Heavy Thunder Hammer is really strong as it is in its base profile, but the only real downside is that it's hitting on force. So if someone charges you and you're retaliating, you still have a strong weapon to fight back with, and you have 15 wounds to go with it. But to make the weapon stronger, you have to be the aggressor. When you're fighting with the weapon, it gets stronger because it has the brutal weapon rule. But if you charge them before you fight, you get the brutal weapon rule and you get ceaseless as well. Now obviously ceaseless allows you to re-roll some of the attack dice, and this makes it much better because when you're hitting on 4s instead of 3s, you'll find that you need to use re-rolls a little bit more often to get some good scores and out of this Thunder Hammer weapon. It's really good, but it forces you to use him aggressively to get the most out of him. But like I say, those re-rolls definitely help when you're only hitting on 4s. The next unique rule for the Demolisher Veteran, the next unique rule for the Demolisher Veteran is called Aggressive Assault. Whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating, normal and critical damage of 3 or more inflicts 1 less damage on it. Now this isn't cumulative with the Shield That Slays strategy ploy. We'll go through that strategy ploy later, but it essentially does the same thing. It reduces the damage by 1 if the damage coming into you is 3 or more from a normal or critical attack. So, this Aggressive Assault is a special rule that gives some damage reduction. Now the good thing is it's always active when you're fighting and retaliating, but the bad side is that it doesn't do anything against range attacks. So if someone's shooting at you, you don't have any buffs there. It is very strong, and it's still a useful rule to help win fights and kill enemy operatives. I think the Demolisher is a great model, and his sculpt is absolutely amazing. He's one of my favorite models in that I really enjoyed painting him, and for his final score, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 5. Now he's definitely best to use against elite kill teams where he's better than the Blademaster just because he deals more damage. But against teams with more models, like I said earlier, you'd be forced to take the Blademaster instead. But the Demolisher, he's still a great fun to play with, and he's a solid melee operative. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Headtaker Veteran is 3 APL, 7-inch move, 3-up save with 13 wounds. He has 2 weapons. His ranged weapon is a special issue bolt pistol, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3-4 damage, range 8 and piercing 1. And his combat melee weapon is called Combat Knives. It's 5 attacks hitting on 3s with a 4-5 damage profile. So looking at his core stat line, the Deathwatch Headtaker Veteran has got the standard 3 APL, but he's got the 1 extra inch, the 7-inch move, he's got the normal 3-up save, and he's got 13 wounds. This essentially is a Space Marine infiltrator. He's in Phobos armor, which is their kind of light armor, giving them more maneuverability, but obviously a few less wounds. And his weapon systems are fine. He's got the same special issue bolt pistol as the Blademaster, and his combat knives, 5 attacks, 3s, 4-5 damage, is just a very solid, standard, strong weapon. He's got no special rules to make him more of a melee operative, but his combat knives are still a stronger fighting option than his bolt pistol, so you know he still is a melee operative. He does have 2 special rules. They don't help him hit harder or shoot better, but they do help him be more maneuverable on the battlefield, and we'll quickly go through those now. The first special rule is called, the unique rule for him is called the Grav Shoot and Grapnel Launcher. Now, whenever this operative is climbing, treat the vertical distance as 2 inches regardless of how far the operative actually moves vertically, and whenever this operative is dropping, you ignore the vertical distance. So for maneuverability and positioning, it's very, very strong. This special rule for positioning the Headtaker around the kill zone, it makes him the most maneuverable operative in the whole kill team by far, and you really can make some fantastic leaps and bounds over terrain features like the strongholds and the ruins on Volkers, and it gives you a real tactical advantage when playing games with your friends. The next special rule, the unique rule for the Headtaker veteran, is the Clandestine Headtaker. This operative can perform the charge action while it has a conceal order, and whenever this operative is fighting against an operative it wasn't visible to at the start of the activation or counter action, the first time you strike during that sequence, you can immediately resolve another of your successes as a strike before your opponent. Now, this rule, I suppose, helps to buff up the combat where it doesn't give you any extra damage, but I suppose, you know, it allows you to strike twice on the first attack. So it is very strong, and when you pair it with the other Grav Shoot and Grapnel Launcher special rule, they stack together perfectly, and it does make for a very strong and very fun operative to play. Essentially, if you were hiding behind some terrain and you were not visible to your target, even if you were on a conceal order, then you can just charge over the terrain, and then when you obviously fight, you can perform 2 hits with 2 of your attacks instead of just 1, and then it goes back to the normal fight order where he attacks, you attack, blah blah blah. So essentially you can deal out about 18 to 10 wounds. If it's 2 normals, you'll have 4 plus 4, 8 wounds. If it's 2 crits, you'll have obviously had 5 plus 5, or if it's a crit and a normal, you'll have a 9 wounds. So you can deal out 8 to 10 wounds of damage with 2 attacks, which, you know, it's really quite strong. You can't block with 2 attacks, you can only strike and cause damage, but it's still really, really good. And I suppose it does make his melee attack strong. It does definitely make him a melee operative. Personally though, I don't think this is the best melee operative in the kill team. He's probably the worst at dealing out damage, even though he gets to hit twice. But his 7-inch move and his special abilities are still fun to play. I'm going to score him a 3 out of 5. I wouldn't use this operative in a competitive team list, but if I was just looking for a fun melee team to play against a friend who had a ranged army, or another melee team, just playing for fun, then I definitely take him sometimes. Let's look at the gunline operatives for the let's look at the gunline operatives for the Deathwatch kill team. Deathwatch Gunner Veteran, 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and 15 wounds. He has 2 ranged weapons. He has a bolt pistol, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with 3/4 damage and a range of 8 inches. And he has a heavy plasma incinerator, which has 2 profiles. It has a standard profile, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/6 damage and piercing 1. And he also has the supercharged profile, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5/6 with hot, lethal 5-ups and piercing 1. So he has a very solid weapon there. And he also has a melee option, which is just his fists, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 3/4 damage. So he's definitely a gunline operative. His heavy plasma incinerator is his main weapon, and obviously he has a bolt pistol and I suppose some fists to back him up as well. Now, he doesn't have any special rules, and he doesn't have any special abilities to use with the gunner operative. All he has is his heavy plasma incinerator. Now, it's a really, really strong and deadly range weapon, and it can dish out a lot of damage, and it has the potential to kill most operatives with 1 shoot action. Now, it does cost 2 action points the second time if you want to shoot with it twice, but he's also got the bolt pistol to finish them off with as well. I'm going to give the Gunner Operative a 4 out of 5. I've taken him in all the games I've played because it's just really nice to have a solid, dependable, heavy-hitting support weapon in your kill team. Let's look at the next Deathwatch Operative. Deathwatch Marksman Veteran, 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and 15 wounds. He has 2 weapons. His first is a ranged weapon called Stalker Bolt Rifle, and it has 2 profiles. The mobile profile is 4 attacks hitting on 3s with 3-4 damage, and the heavy profile is 4 attacks hitting on 2s with a 3-5 damage profile. It's heavy dash only, lethal 5 up, and piercing crits 1. And his melee option is Fists. It's 4 attacks hitting on 3s with 3-4 damage. So he has a standard Elite's profile on his core stats, and then he has obviously a Stalker Bolt Rifle. Makes him definitely a melee option. His fists are only for retaliating. You know, you probably would never charge in and use a fist. You'd always shoot. But that's basically it. Now, he does have a special ability, and let's look at that right now. The special additional rule, the unique rule for the Marksman Veteran, is called Vigilant Marksman. This operative can perform the guard action during its activation regardless of the kill zone. See Close Quarters rules on Kill Team Toonworld. When using the Close Quarters rules, once per turning point after this operative performs a free shoot action on guard, it can immediately perform a free guard action. However, if it does, it cannot counteract nor guard twice if it's already counteracted. So this, to me, is a very strong rule all round, and in some instances it can prove to be very, very strong. Now, going on guard in Kill Team is a lot of fun, and anyone who plays Kill Team will be able to say, you know, that it is really great fun. But to be able to do it twice is just amazing, and it can make it really, really hard work for your opponents, you know, to deal with. Being able to do this on any kill zone as well is a real bonus, and it makes the Marksman Veteran a solid choice for any Deathwatch kill team that you put together, albeit a competitive one or something just for fun. I'm going to give the Marksman a 4 out of 5. He's very useful if you play him properly. His weapon is not that strong in its mobile profile, but the heavy profile makes up for that. And like I say, it's a solid enough operative that you can go on guard twice, and you can go on guard twice in any kill zone in the game. So I think overall, definitely a 4 out of 5. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Disruptor Veteran, 3 APL, 7-inch move, 3 up save, and 13 wounds. He has 2 weapon systems. He has the Marksman Bolt Carbine, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3-4 damage, and lethal 5 up. And he has a melee profile of Fists, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s with 3-4 damage. So again, he's got the extra inch move with his 7-inch move, but he's obviously got the extra, -2 inches to his wound. So it's the same Phobos armor that we saw in the Headtaker Veteran. He does have, well, the Marksman Bolt Carbine and the Fizz, they're both very, very standard weapons. There's nothing at all special about the weapons. The lethal 5 up rule on the Marksman Bolt Carbine isn't that great, but I suppose it helps a little. But he does have 2 special unique abilities, and we'll go through those now. The Disruptor Veteran has the Advanced Omni Scrambler. It's a strategic gambit, so you use it in the strategy phase, not during the firefight phase activations, and you select 1 enemy operative visible to or within 6 inches of this operative, and then you roll 1d6. If in the following firefight phase, that enemy operative cannot be activated or perform actions until one of the following is true, your opponent has activated a number of enemy operatives equal to the result of the d6 roll, or it's the last enemy operative to be activated. Now, I did use this special rule in a game I played. I used it against the Wrecker crew, and I targeted his last remaining bomb squig. I did my roll in the strategy phase, and I rolled a 3, and I put that dice next to the bomb squig. So my opponent had initiative, And when it was his first activation, now he was barred from using the bomb squig, so he moved another model and he put the dice down from a 3 to 2 because there was still 2 activations, he couldn't use it. And then it was my go, and then in his next activation, because he still had 2 activations to go, he couldn't use the bomb squig again. So he reduced it down to 1 and he moved another model instead. And then when it got back to me in my go, I then shot and I killed the bomb squig. Now, it's incredibly useful in that circumstance, because if it hadn't have been for the, the advanced Omni Scrambler ability, and obviously because he was going first with initiative, he would have charged into 2 of my operatives with the bomb squig, which they were behind the barricade, and he would have done a great deal of damage. And he really hated the fact that I'd taken his bomb squig essentially out of action for 3 activations, and in that instance, it really worked out well for me. But you don't get many instances like that, but when it does work, it is great fun. His other special rule, his other unique rules for the Disruptor Veteran is called Auspex Triangulation. Now, the advanced Auspex Scan Firefight ploy costs 0 CP when both of the following are true. This operative isn't within control range of enemy operatives, and that's obviously this Disruptor Veteran, and the target of the shoot action, primary target if relevant, is visible to this operative, and you have to note that it doesn't have to be this operative performing the shoot action. So I did use this and I had a great time doing it. We'll go through the firefight ploys a little bit later on in this video, but essentially it allows you to use that firefight ploy, the advanced Auspex scan one, for free if the Disruptor Veteran A isn't in control range and you can see the enemy operative. You have to have both of them. It can't be in control range and it's got to have a visible line of sight on the operative. But in my example, I was using the Gunner Veteran's activation to target an enemy operative that was in cover and it was obscured. So the advanced Auspex scan firefight ploy means that I got to add the saturate weapon rule to the weapon, and it meant that the operative didn't get a cover save, and it also removed the obscuring rule, meaning it was a lot easier for me to kill the operative that I was aiming at, and the Gunner Veteran did manage to kill him with the use of the advanced Auspex scan firefight ploy from the Disruptor Veteran. Now, this Disruptor operative to me is probably one of the worser operatives in the whole kill team. Now I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5 like I did the Headtaker, because he's just not that overpowering, but in some circumstances he is fun to play, and sometimes his special rules can help other operatives to do their jobs more effectively. So, take him sometimes for fun, try him out yourself, but my score personally is a 3 out of 5. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Horde-Slayer Veteran, 3 APL, 5-inch move, 3 up save and 18 wounds. He has 2 ranged weapons. The first ranged weapon is a bolt pistol. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with a 3/4 damage and a range of 8 inches. His next ranged weapon is called the Infernus Heavy Bolter, and it has 3 different profiles. The first profile is called Flame. It's 5 attacks, it's hitting on 2s, it's 3/3 damage, ranged 8, saturate and torrent 2. It's a flamer, we all love flamers. And then he's got the Infernus Heavy Bolter Focused Bolt, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/5 damage, piercing crits 1. And then he has the Infernus Heavy Bolter Sweeping Bolt, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/5 damage with piercing crits 1 and torrent 1. So fantastic weapon there. And then finally he's got his melee option, which is just his fists, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with 3/4 damage. So as you can see from his core stat line, the move is 5 inches, not 6 or 7 like with the guys in the Phobos armor, and his wounds are 18, not 15 or 13 like the guys. He's wearing what's called Gravis armor, so he's represented by being a bit slower with 5 inches, but he does have an extra 3 wounds, giving him 18 wounds. There are no special abilities and there are no special rules. He just has his Gravis armor and a really big gun. Now the Infernus Heavy Bolter is essentially, in my opinion, it's an anti-horde weapon. and it does well against standards, but it's not that great against elites. It does have 3 profiles though, instead of the standard 2. You know, I love the flamer profile, hitting on 2s, 3. I just love flamers, they are so much fun. 5 attacks as well, absolutely brilliant. You've got to remember with, like most heavy range weapons in the Deathwatch kill team, the first shoot action costs 1 action point, but the second shoot action costs 2 action points. So you have to be careful when moving him and getting him into position, because spending an AP to move him means you can't shoot twice with the Horde-Slayer weapon, but he does have a bolt pistol to finish them off if need be. And for his melee option, his fists are only decent at best. They're only for retaliating, but he does wear Gravis armor, which gives him 18 wounds, you know, so he is built like a walking tank. Now, I'm going to give the Horde-Slayer a solid 4 out of 5. He is a solid enough gun option, but you really would only take him if you were going up against a Horde team. There are much better options if you're going up against a standard or an elite kill team. Let's look at the next Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Bombard Veteran, 3 APL, 5-inch move, 3 up save and 18 wounds. He has 2 ranged weapons. He has a bolt pistol, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3-4 damage and range of 8 inches. And he has the Thrag Cannon, which has 2 profiles. The shell profile is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 5-7 damage, piercing 1. And the shrapnel profile has 5 attacks hitting on 3s, 4-5 damage and torrent 2. And for his melee option, he has fists, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s and 3-4 damage. So he's another Gravis armor, 5-inch move, 18 wounds. When you pick this kill team, you can only have 1 operative with Gravis armor, and there are 3 to choose from. This is the second of the 3. Again, like the Horde-Slayer, he doesn't have any special rules or any special abilities. He just has his Gravis armor and a really big gun, the Frag Cannon. The first shoot action, like with the Horde-Slayer, costs 1 action point, but the second costs 2 action points. So you have to be careful with the action point management, because to get him into position means that you can't shoot him twice with the Frag Cannon. But like the Horde-Slayer, he does have a bolt pistol to finish them off if need be. And like so many of the operatives in this kill team, the fists are really just for retaliating. The Frag Cannon, to me, it's not really that great. It has 2 profiles, but none of them are that outstanding. The shell profile, it has really good damage at 5-7, and it has piercing 1, and the shrapnel has torrent 2, but there's nothing that shouts out loud and says, choose me, I'm a good option. I am still going to give him a 4 out of 5 because all of his stats together are still very strong, and he does wear Gravis armor. He is a solid operative, but he's just really not that good against Horde teams, and he's kind of only decent against elite kill teams. But I suppose his best strength is if he goes up against the kind of standard 9 or 10 model kill teams. Let's look at the final Deathwatch operative. Deathwatch Breacher Veteran, 3 APL, 5-inch move, 3 up save and 18 wounds. He has 3 ranged weapons. The first ranged weapon is the auxiliary grenade launcher, and it has 2 profiles. You have the frag profile, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 2-4 damage and blast 2. And it has the auxiliary grenade launcher crack profile, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 4-5 damage and piercing 1. You have the Hellstorm bolt rifle profile, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 4-5 damage and torrent 1. And finally, for his ranged weapons, you have the Melter Bomb profile, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 5-3 damage. It has a range of 3 inches, devastating 3, heavy, reposition only, limited 1 and piercing 2. And for his melee option, he has fists, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s and 3-4 damage. So I've saved the best till last. The Breacher Veteran, in my opinion, is the only auto include in the whole Deathwatch kill team. I take him in every list, whether it's competitive or a fun melee list or just some wacky gunline team. I take him all the time. Just like all the other options in Gravis armor, he's a walking tank. But this tank has something special called a Melter Bomb. Now the Melter Bomb is a super close range and devastating attack profile that will just about kill anything you throw at it. I always save some CP just for rerolls in case, but most of the time it will maim or kill any enemy in the game. If the enemy does get all the luck of the Irish, then you still have the auxiliary grenade launcher to shoot a frag or a crack, or you could use the Hellstorm bolt rifle if there are other targets and within torrent range. You know, it doesn't have a bolt pistol like all of the other operatives in the kill team, but who cares? You know, seriously, he's the best of the best in my opinion. His weapon systems do have the rule where you've got to spend the extra action point to use them twice, so you do have to be careful. You know, keep him still and you'll be able to shoot twice with your grenade launcher or the hell, you know. But if you do move him, you will be capped at how many times. But I suppose, you know, you can use the auxiliary grenade launcher and then the Hellstorm bolt rifle. You know, you can shoot with either of them, you just can't shoot one of them twice. The options for killing with this guy are absolutely endless and I love it. The Breacher is a true powerhouse, and in my advice I take him in every game you play, and I'd learn his rules like there was the back of your hand, and trust me, he won't let you down. He will kill and he will kill and he will just keep on killing, and you'll have all the fun in the world. His final score is a 5 out of 5. This operative is the last operative we look at. Next, we're going to look at the faction equipment choices for the Deathwatch kill team. Next up, I want to look at the Deathwatch faction equipment, and as with all kill teams, we have 4 choices to choose from. We have ammunition reserve, digital weapons, Scrutavore Servo-Thrall, and Sanctus-V Bioscryer cuffs. Deathwatch faction equipment, ammunition reserve. Once per battle, you can use the special issue ammunition faction rule for up to 2 shoot actions during 1 turning point, but you must select different weapon rules for both uses. This takes precedence over the normal special issue ammunition rules. This equipment choice is pretty straightforward. You know, it's a once per battle ability that allows you to use the faction rule special issue twice. And you have to select a different weapon rule each time, and that's it basically. So there's nothing complicated. Is it good? Yeah, I think it's really useful. Now, I really enjoyed using mine, and there were loads of games that I played or have played against the Deathwatch where it proved to be really beneficial. You might be put off initially because it's once per battle, and you might think that you'll take some barricades or some grenades, but I think that you'll find there's lots of opportunities that you'll be given by your opponents to make good use of it. And if you remember, the Watchmaster, the Watch Sergeant, sorry, gives you an extra equipment choice, and I would always recommend taking him because of his core stats are really good and his unique rules are really, really good as well. Now, initially, I was only going to give this a 4 out of 5, but after I'd played a few games and I'd gone up against them a few times, I realized that this is incredibly useful, and I've decided by just a nose to give it a final score of 5 out of 5. The special issue ammunition weapon rule is really, really strong, and being able to use it twice in 1 turning point, I think, yeah, it deserves only just a 5 out of 5. Deathwatch faction equipment, digital weapons. Once per turning point, when a friendly Deathwatch operative performs the fight action at the start of the roll attack dice step, you can use this rule. If you do, inflict 1 damage on the enemy operative in that sequence. So that's it basically. I've played with this equipment choice on several occasions, and most of the time I found that it's really underpowered. I played one game where I took a wacky melee build, and I took the Sergeant, Sergeant Blademaster, Aegis, Demolisher, and the Headtaker. In that game, obviously, I did a whole lot of charging and I did a whole lot of fighting, and it still proved to be only slightly useful at best. And remember one thing, it's only when you're fighting and that you spent the AP to fight. If they charged into you and if they spent the action point to fight, that means you're retaliating and it doesn't work. It's only when you are fighting. That really stops it from being useful. As an equipment choice, it's very mediocre, and personally, I'd rather take some smoke grenades or I'd rather take some light barricades instead. The final score is a 2 out of 5. I don't think it's worth taking because it just doesn't do enough damage and it just doesn't help enough to be worth taking. I take something else instead. Deathwatch faction equipment, Scrutavore Servo-Thrall. Once per turning point during a friendly Deathwatch operative's activation, you can use this rule. If you do, during that activation, that operative can perform a mission action for 1 less AP. Having an enemy operative within its control range doesn't prevent that friendly operative from performing that mission action. However, in such an instance, after it does so, you and your opponent roll off. If your opponent wins, you cannot use this equipment for the rest of the battle. Now, this equipment choice has proven to be very useful because it essentially gives one of your operatives a chance to have an extra AP. So during his activation, he gets 3 AP, so he could move, shoot, and then you can take an objective for free. So it's essentially 4 action points. Or during one of your counter actions, he has 2 action points. He has 1 from his special or 1, from the extra AP, and then you can do it. So you can dash, shoot, take an objective. It's, really, really useful for one of your operatives to have that extra AP once per turning point. It has to be used for mission action, so things like scoring on objectives or using tac ops are perfectly fine. So yeah, I don't think it's really that bad. I think that's fine. It would be better if you could perform any action, but still, if you're going to take an objective, it doesn't matter whether you do it first with one of your action points or whether you do it at the end with this faction equipment for free. It's irrelevant. You've taken the objective. Now, we've done 2 battles on the battle reports on this channel. Both of them I went up against Ryan. I was the Canoptic Circle, and both of them at the end we forgot to make Ryan do the roll off. So Ryan, if you're watching, you got lucky, mate, because the next time we play, I'm going to make you do the roll off because we didn't do that during the battle report. So if you've watched those, we'll have to apologise. My final score for this is going to be a 4 out of 5. I would give it a 5 out of 5, but because you have to do that roll off at the end of the first usage, the first time you use it, it just downgrades it and it stops it being absolutely brilliant. But it's definitely worth a 4 out of 5. It's a very solid choice for a faction equipment. Deathwatch faction equipment, Sanctus-V Bioscryer cuffs. During each friendly Deathwatch operative's activation, before or after it performs an action, if it's not within control range of enemy operatives, you can use this rule. If you do, select one of the following. That friendly operative regains up to D3 lost wounds. You remove any changes to that friendly operative's APL stat, or you remove one of the following tokens that friendly operative has, and this is before the token's activation takes effect. So resolved, if relevant, you have Neutron Fragment, Poison, and Terracam. Now, this equipment choice to me is the only auto include for the Deathwatch kill team. This option has tons of utility and it makes a massive difference when playing in the kill zone. And remember, this is every activation, it's in every turning point. During the whole battle, you get to choose from one of these 3 things every time. Now, regaining D3 lost wounds is a really big thing. Having just 5 operatives in your team, you need to do everything you can to keep them alive. You really can't afford to lose any of them, especially early in the game. And removing a -1 APL token is also very strong. There are tons of people who will take stun grenades against Deathwatch because with only 5 operatives, you need all the AP you can. Losing just 1 AP is quite a big thing. And then finally, you've got the removal of the tokens like Poison, and this is before their effects take place, so you don't have to apply the damage. It's Really, really strong. And some kill teams, you know, like the Plague Marines and stuff, they build their whole game plan around getting those tokens on your operatives and suffering from their effects. So if your opponent manages to get 3 poison tokens on you, when you activate him, you just remove it. And then the next activation, you remove it. And then the next, you know, you just remove them. It's a real massive thing. Now, being able to choose whether you regain some health, you know, whether you remove 1 AP or remove a token, to some people might not seem that much of a big thing, but it's incredibly strong. This equipment choice, to me, is simply an auto-include, and it's a maximum score of 5 out of 5. Next, let's look at the strategy ploys available for Kill Team Deathwatch. Deathwatch, Kill Team, Strategy Ploy. There are 4 to choose from as always, and we have And They Shall Know No Fear, Mission Tactics, the Long Vigil, and the Shield That Slays. Deathwatch, Strategy Ploy, And They Shall Know No Fear. You can ignore any changes to the stats of friendly Deathwatch operatives from being injured, including their weapon stats. Now, this strategy ploy is super simple and it's really, really effective. Now, there'll be lots of times where your Deathwatch operatives are getting injured, mainly because you need to leave them on an engage order so as you can get the most out of them when it's their turn to perform counteracts. This means your opponents get lots of sitting duck opportunities to do some damage. Now, if it's the start of the turning point and you have a couple or even several injured operatives, then you should really always look to play this for a command point, because being able to remove the -2 inches from their move stat is very, very strong. 6 inches move in Kill Team is useful, but 4 inches is not. And remember, when you're counteracting, you can only move 2 inches anyway, so if you're injured, it means you don't have the option to move at all. You have to stay put. And also being able to remove the -1 from your hit stat when shooting, or when fighting, or when retaliating is also an incredibly strong bonus, and you get all that for just 1 command point. Now, if you only have 1 injured operative, it's usually not worth playing it, and I'd save the command point personally. And remember, it doesn't remove the injured token from the operative, it just removes the effects. So in the next turning point, that injured token will still be there, and that operative will still be affected by the injured token, unless of course you play the strategy point again for another command point. It's very strong, but you need to have more than 1 operative injured to justify the command point. If you don't have injured operatives in the kill zone, then it's more or less useless. You can use it to protect them if they do from getting injured during the turning point, if say lots of them were wounded, but if most of them are nearly at full health, then it's never really worth it. The final score for And They Shall Know No Fear is a very solid 4 out of 5. Now, there will be times when using this and it's an absolute no-brainer to spend a command point and play it, but there'll be times where it's really not that strong because they're not injured. You get a lot of bang for your buck, especially for just 1 CP. In some circumstances, it's very, very strong and definitely worth a 4 out of 5. Deathwatch, Strategy Ploy, Mission Tactics. Select, conceal, or engage. Whenever a friendly Deathwatch operative is shooting against or fighting against an enemy operative that has that order, that friendly operative's weapons have the balanced weapon rule. This is another strategy ploy that can be extremely beneficial. I went up against the Wrecker crew in a game recently at the NGC Newport Gaming Centre, and my opponent had all of his operatives bar 1 on an engage order. So there was 2 bomb squigs and I think like 4, possibly 5 of the orcs. I played this and I managed to get off 8 rerolls in all of the shooting and fighting that went off in that turning point. Now, it was amazing value considering it only cost 1 CP, and those rerolls alone would have cost 8 CP if I'd done them individually. There will be loads of times when you play with the Deathwatch kill team and you find you'll get a ton of rerolls off using this strategy ploy. The only downside really is that if you choose conceal, it's not much of an option because most of the time your opponent will have them behind cover, and if they have a conceal order, it means that they're not valid targets. But if your opponent wants to get frisky, and if your opponent wants some action and decides to leave them spread out the kill zone with engage orders, then I definitely play this every time. The final score for mission tactics is a solid 4 out of 5. Deathwatch strategy ploy, the Long Vigil. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Deathwatch operative that's within your territory, you can re-roll one of your defense dice. The Long Vigil is, well, it's useful sometimes like most strategy ploys, but with command points being in short supply, it's often overlooked for other strategy ploys or just saving it for re-rolls as well. Now, I've only got one example where it kind of worked well for me and it turned out to be worth spending it. I was at the NGC Newport Gaming Centre again. I was up against the Angels of Death, and I decided to leave 3 of my operatives on engage orders to maximise my chances during counteracts, and I left the Sergeant, the Breacher and the Gunner out on engage orders, hoping my opponent would see the opportunity to take out some operatives and see it as fair game, and he did. He came out with his heavy intercessor gunner. Now, I knew he had to move, so he couldn't fire that weapon twice, and my breacher survived, and then he came out with his intercessor gunner with a Stalker bolt rifle, and my sergeant survived, and then obviously it went on to the turning point. Now, when it was my turn to counteract, I obviously shot back, and I did more damage to him than he'd managed to do with me, and obviously the re-rolls helped there a bit, and the Long Vigil, you know, had definitely helped. This strategy ploy to me is the weakest of the 4, and really the highest score I can give it is a 3 out of 5. You only get to re-roll 1 dice, you're saving on 3s anyway, and if you place your operatives properly, then you can have cover saves and you get obscuring as well. So I don't think there'll be many times that you want to play the Long Vigil personally. Deathwatch strategy ploy, the Shield that Slays. Whenever a friendly Deathwatch operative is within your opponent's territory, normal and critical damage of 4 or more inflicts 1 less damage on it. This strategy ploy is another one that I don't think is very useful, mainly because the Deathwatch kill team doesn't have enough operatives to go wandering and flanking into the enemy territory. They're much stronger if you keep them in your own territory where they're not so spread out. In the battle report I played with Ryan, his Blademaster was dead center on the center objective, so he qualifies as being within his own territory, and he's also within his opponent's territory. So he can use things like the Long Vigil because he's within his own territory, and he can also use the Shield that Slays because he's in his opponent's territory. Now, he took 3 normal successes, which would have normally been 12 wounds of damage. But using this ploy, he reduced it down to just 9 wounds of damage. And this is about the only useful time that I've ever seen it being used and actually, you know, done anything. There are not many examples in my games where I played with the Deathwatch, or where I played with against the Deathwatch, or I played with them. There aren't many examples at all where it's worth a command point. It's just not worth it. This to me is the worst of the 4 strategy ploys. I know I said the last one was, I got it mixed up. It's this one that's the worst of the 4 strategy ploys. I don't think I could ever really play this one myself personally because I just wouldn't go launching my operatives into the enemy territory. I've only got 5 Deathwatch operatives. They just stay on my side of the board. So the final score is a 2 out of 5. And that brings us to the end of the strategy ploys. Let's now look at the firefight ploys for the Deathwatch kill team. In this section of the video, we're going to look at the Deathwatch firefight ploys, and there are 4 of them as always. We have Advanced Auspex Scan, Auspicator Tracking, Transhuman Physiology, and Suffer Not the Alien. Deathwatch firefight ploy, Advanced Auspex Scan. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Deathwatch operative performs the shoot action. Until the end of the activation counter action, its ranged weapons have the saturate weapon rule and the enemy operatives cannot be obscured. This firefight ploy is really useful, and in every game I've played there have been times that I could have used it. I've always taken the Breacher veteran, and I always take the Gunner veteran usually as well. Both of these operatives have great range weapons, and if my opponent isn't super careful, he can leave me with a prime opportunity to take out a big target, and lots of players will have their operatives behind some cover with lots of heavy intervening terrain pieces, and they think it's a safe place, and I get to remove the cover saves and I get to remove obscuring off the enemy I'm targeting. I've used this in most games I've played and found it to be great fun watching the look on their faces when they find out that their operatives are nowhere near as safe as they thought they were, and then I wipe them out and take them off the board. Again, it's circumstantial. You won't always get a chance to use it, but you should be willing to spend a command point when a prime target appears. I'm going to score Advanced Auspex Scan a solid 4 out of 5. Deathwatch firefight ploy, Auspicator tracking. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Deathwatch operative is counteracting. Before it performs any actions, you can change its order. Now, I had a game at the NGC Newport Gaming Centre and I was going up against the Raveners, and I moved my heavy gunner veteran up behind some heavy cover with his head just poking out, and I left him there on a conceal order. My opponent thought it was safe to charge his Ravener Talon. He put him on engage and he killed my sergeant, who had about 4 wounds remaining, and then his activation was over. In my very first counteract, I spent a command point, I switched the heavy gunner to engage, and I used my special ammunition to wipe out the Fel Talon. And you'll find there are loads of opportunities like that when you have your gunline operatives in great positions with conceal orders. You can also move and shoot with an operative when it's your last activation, and then just leave him out there on an engage order. And then in your very first counteract, you can then just switch him back to conceal and leave him there behind the cover. This firefight ploy gives the whole kill team a big boost tactically. If you plan ahead, you'll find there are loads of opportunities to use this to your advantage. To me, it's an easy 5 out of 5. It's incredibly strong, and you should learn how to use it when you're playing your games. And if your opponent isn't aware of it, you can easily outplay him and score some valuable kill points. Deathwatch firefight ploy, Transhuman Physiology. Use this firefight ploy when an operative is shooting a friendly Deathwatch operative. In the roll defense dice step, you can retain one of your normal successes as a critical success instead. When I first saw this firefight ploy, it was for another kill team. I believe it was for the Angels of Death, and I initially didn't think it was that good. But the more I've played using elite teams, then the more I've found out that it's actually really useful. You will find that on lots of occasions, being able to upgrade a hit to a crit for 1 command point is actually really quite brilliant. Because you have to use 2 hits to double them up to save a crit, you can actually get a big damage reduction when that operative is rolling his defense dice. On the downside, it does nothing for fighting or retaliating. It's only useful when you're being shot at. So if your opponent has a melee team like Raveners, then it is going to get much use at all. But if you're going up against a gunline team, it will generally quite often, prove to be very useful. I'm going to score Transhuman Physiology a very solid 4 out of 5. Deathwatch firefight ploy, Suffer Not the Alien. Use this firefight ploy after rolling your attack dice for a friendly Deathwatch operative. If it's shooting against or fighting against an operative that doesn't have the Chaos or Imperium keyword, you can re-roll any of your attack dice. So in the tradition of saving the best to last, we've now gotten to the best. This firefight ploy, to me personally, is heads and shoulders the best firefight ploy that the Deathwatch kill team have. One of the worst things in dice games is when you squiff a roll and you don't score anything. This allows you to re-roll your entire roll if necessary, and let's be honest, we all love the drama and the action of a full re-roll. It's also great because you can use it when you're shooting or you're fighting, but not when you're retaliating, and obviously you're restricted to using it against operatives with the Chaos or Imperium keywords. Even though there are some restrictions, I still think it's the best firefight ploy, and you'll be using it all the time and time again, to help bring victory to your kill team on the battlefield. The score is definitely a 5 out of 5. This brings us to the end of the firefight ploys and almost to the end of the video. Let's now just have a final recap on my experiences playing with the kill team Deathwatch. The Deathwatch are the second 5-operative elite kill team that we've had after the release of the Raveners. They're a mixed team consisting of some very strong melee and some very strong gunline operatives as well. Although you can make a pure melee team or you can make a pure gunline team, I personally think they do best when you take a mixture of both. Some of the positive things that I've found with Deathwatch kill team is that they're not a complicated team. And what I mean is each of the operatives in the team can function on its own, and you don't have to worry too much about the unique rules and the special actions and how it all stacks together in like a little unit. You can just deploy them anywhere you like and you can just get on playing the game. They have 2 really strong faction rules that are easy to follow and fun to play, and they really make the Deathwatch stand out from other elite teams like the Angels of Death, and they have a great selection of faction equipment, strategy ploys and firefight ploys. Only a few of them aren't worth playing, the rest are really useful and they're worth learning. On the negative side, the only real negative I can find to this kill team is you really need to buy 2 boxes to get the most out of the kill team and to really reap what it has to offer. You could also try magnetizing them if you have the patience, but I think most people will just buy a second box and then they can just make up 10 operatives. All in all, I really like them. I've had a massive amount of fun playing with them, which is the most important thing, and I've also had a lot of fun playing against them as well. My final score for Kill Team Deathwatch is a very solid, super solid 5 out of 5. I've had a great time making this video. Thank you for watching Let's Get Critical. Have a great day. Bye bye.